What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Credit Plug channel. So for today's video, we have another special guest. You guys are probably familiar. We have Jason Crown from Crown Credit Pro. Welcome again, Jason. Pleasure to have you on as usual. Today's video, Jason is going to be answering some common questions about the credit repair, credit dispute process. So again, pleasure to have you on, Jason.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, you've seen a lot of videos on social media, on the internet, when it comes to repairing your credit, kind of the do-it-yourself where you send in dispute templates. A lot of people may think that it's, very straightforward. You just get a template, you fill in your information, you send it into the credit reporting agencies, and it just magically comes off of your credit report.
Yeah.
So I wanted to actually share this article. This is basically a report from the Washington Post, and I'm just going to read what this says here. So from January 20th to September 21st, which is about, I guess you could say, like a 21-month period, the CFPB received more than 700,000 complaints about the credit bureaus. The most common issue involved incorrect information on people's reports, and communities of color and low-income communities tended to submit complaints at a higher rate. In 2021, the credit bureaus provided relief in less than 2% of consumer complaints, down from 25% in 2019. The credit reporting agencies, resolved a significantly less, percentage of complaints. Most of those having to do with incorrect information on people's credit reports. Now, I know submitting disputes to the CFPB is one of the tactics that a lot of people will use in the credit dispute process, right? It's just, one method, I guess. And from what that article basically said is that more recently, and this time kind of coincides with the pandemic, they're basically, not addressing as many complaints as they were in years past. I just wanted to kind of talk about some of the reasons why that may be, just kind of some of the things that you've seen, from your perspective, being in this day in, day out, some of the different considerations in terms of the dispute process.
Yes, that's a very good question. We get that asked all the time. With the credit bureaus, they're mainly concerned with the dispute being authentic from the individual. And the thing with credit repair organizations, or even people trying to fix their own credit, is the fact that they may be using templates or documents that have been used previously. The credit bureaus are $1 billion company. With the rise in disputes and complaints, they have to now filter all of the disputes more so than they ever have before. And by doing so, they use NLP technology, natural language processing machines that are able to sift through these documents to determine whether or not they've been used before. And in doing so, once they see that, they deem the dispute frivolous, meaning they don't accept your disputes. So here at Crown Credit Pro, the difference is when we send out a dispute on your behalf, we do it as if it was you sending out the dispute, so that we don't have that issue. Currently we have a supply and demand issue with the disputes that we've been sending with our service. And it's all due to the success of, our processes. Typically on average, we have each customer that we finish we close their dispute. We have about 5 new referrals that come from it. So we have a huge demand. We're trying to enlarge our team to be able to handle that demand. But it's because of that recipe. We make sure that each dispute is authentic and it's unique.
Absolutely. So just to kind of clarify, right, from what you said, the credit reporting agencies are using essentially, algorithms, natural language processing. So for those who don't know what NLP is in terms of data science, right, being able to look at structured text and figure out patterns, within the text, right? And it could basically detect whether or not a dispute was used before, right? Like a template, because it's going to have the same order and structure and sequence of words. Yes. And so it's able to basically figure out, okay, this has been used however many times, right? And so just to kind of summarize, that's going to be ineffective going forward, just having just a generic template. And it's probably one of the reasons why a lot of the disputes are marked as frivolous, or it might come back verified, whatever the case may be. They have gotten a record number of disputes. So this is one way for them to kind of filter out. Now, to piggyback in that, another question I wanted to ask you was in terms of like recommendations. If you're going to submit a dispute, let's say someone wants to do it themselves, is it better to do handwritten or a typed dispute?
Well, I mean, handwritten is always better because, um, it shows the authenticity of the individual actually placing the dispute. The only challenge with that is it being handwritten, meaning if it's not readable. Um, the bureaus don't read your documents; they send it through a machine. So obviously, if it's not something that's legible, then there will be a challenge. So again, when we do our disputes, we don't handwrite them, but you use different characters, font size, we change a variation. So there's lots of different things we do to keep them unique, and authentic. So, but, it can be done. It's not something that can't be done, but, I wouldn't recommend it, because the bureaus are trying to find any way not to accept your dispute. That's their game. It's not that the process doesn't work. It's just they're getting so many disputes, they're trying to default and not accept them. It's just too much of a challenge for them.
Now, let me ask you this: like, how has the increased volume impacted timelines? Because I know years ago, when people were talking about items will be removed in 30 days or less. How has the recent events kind of affected the timeline in terms of when someone can expect to get items removed off their credit report? And are there certain items, maybe let's say late payments, inquiries, bankruptcies? Are there certain types of items that naturally just take longer?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, with our dispute process, initially when we started, we had a 10 business day turnaround with a 30 business day guarantee. Now, because of our influx in files and how much business we're getting, it's a 90 business day turnaround or your money back guaranteed. In regards to the credit bureaus, post COVID, they've got people working from home. They don't have the systems in place. They're working off of a laptop. So the turnaround is going to be a lot slower. On the other hand, we contact the credit bureaus directly on your behalf. So we're able to still move the file along. It's definitely longer than it's ever been, post COVID.
What would you say is like a reasonable, timeline to expect to see certain things? Like, I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, there might be some things that are a little bit more difficult. Maybe like, for example, bankruptcies.
Yeah, with public record items, bankruptcies, liens, child support, we typically would ask for the whole 90 business day turnaround. You typically, when you sign up with us, other than those items, will start seeing results in 30 business days. But as far as public record items, bankruptcy, student loans, things of that nature, because of public record items, the student loan is a government loan. It's about 90 business days to see results in regards to those.
Another question I wanted to ask you, and this is something that I found myself in at one point with, let's say, an account that you have that you're actively using, but it has a late payment. So there's a couple different considerations. It's, do I try to maintain the account and maybe get the late payments or derogatories removed, or do I just remove the whole account? If you remove the account, then you'll lose the age.
Right, right.
But if you remove the account, that might be more straightforward than trying to get the payment history updated
Yeah,
to
yeah.
reflect positive on time.
One thing that I found is that once the account is internally derogatory, meaning let's say you are a type of person where your account keeps going over the limit, or
Mhm.
you're a type of person where you've had a late payment. Internally, when it's time to do more business with the let's say a credit card company, although they may not close your account, they won't raise your credit limit, right? They won't, give you concessions. They may not waive your fees if you ask. Why? Because you've gone over the credit limit, or you've got your late payment. So what I typically would suggest is that we remove the account. I understand that there may be age attached, but I
Mhm.
would remove the account. And typically, what I found also with people typically have Capital One or Credit One or, lower starter credit cards. These are not cards that you're going to want to keep anyways because they have super high interest rates. That's more so than not. What I would recommend is that we get an authorized user. We can always get an authorized user to replace the age that we're taking off. So if I'm taking off a 10-year or a 5-year, I can always get an authorized user to replace that. And then we could build moving forward, because the credit that you're going to have moving forward as far as getting approved is going to be better. We're going to get you a Chase card. We're going to get you, some of the things that the credit plug may suggest. But these are definitely going to be cards with better terms, better interest rates, rewards, and things of that nature.
And so another question that I wanted to run by you, and this has to do with score versus profile. And I know sometimes, we might get caught up in the numeric score, like, hey, I got a, 750 credit score. But and this is something that I've always preached because I've witnessed it firsthand, right? It's not always the numeric score. There's other, factors of your credit that are considered in a lending decision. So why don't you talk about, the different factors and which factors should people focus more on when it comes to their overall credit?
Our goal is to give you an understanding of the reality of credit in regards to how the lender sees it, right? So the first thing we're going to do is debunk the myth of score, right? The score is a lie. The only value of the score is the tail on the dog that follows. It will do what the factors do, right? So, and the reason why I say that, I'll give you an example. If you have a blank credit profile and I give you one authorized user, you're going to have a 700 credit score, but you'll get declined every day, right? You'll get declined every day. And the reason why you're going to get declined every day is because while you may have 100% payment history with that one trade line and you'll have a good, debt to credit ratio, you won't have the amount of counts that suffice. You won't have the age. Well, you'll have the age because it'll be a 10-year. You won't have all the 6 factors that's necessary to get approved. And those 6 factors are the payment history, the credit card usage, the derogatory marks, the credit age, the number of accounts, and the hard inquiries. And so for each person, it's a different story, which is why we do the free consultation. And in the free consultation, we're going to go over those different 6 factors and show you the importance of that instead of the score, right? Because, there's many people who may have a late payment and still have a 740 credit score. There's people that have a collection and still have a 740 credit score. So the score doesn't mean anything because you'll get declined. And post-COVID, they're looking for perfect credit, right? Because they understand that the economy is an oppression. We're in a state where finances are not readily available. People don't have money to pay their bills. So they're looking for people with exceptional credit. And so that brings me to the customer that may say to me or to one of my representatives, I just have a late payment. It's not that serious. I'll get approved, or it's not that bad because my score is good. But that's a lie. That's not true. The reality is that you need 100% payment history. You need your debt to credit ratio, or where it says credit card usage, 30% or less. You're going to need 0 derogatory marks. You're going to need just your age to be at least, 7 years and above, right? You're going to need your total number of accounts to be 10 and up, right? You're going to need no 3 or probably less hard inquiries. Those are the factors that are going to be determined when you look at when a lender looks at your file to determine unsecured credit, right? A lot of the things that Credit Plug may talk about with these great banks that he finds is speaking to unsecured credit. Secured credit, they may be more lenient, right? So which is why you come up with the idea to say, well, this one late payment won't harm me. But what you're not realizing is with that leniency, they're going to give you a higher interest rate, right? So even with a mortgage or an auto loan with secured lending, that's going to be the case. Yes, you can get away with some derogatories, but you're going to have higher interest rate, which still hurts you in the end. And you don't want that. And you may only be limited to secure credit, right? You won't have the opportunity to get unsecured credit, which is what you really want. Because when you get that house, you're going to want furniture. You're going to want other things that are going to require unsecured financing to get, which you're not going to get approved for because you don't have exceptional credit. So that's our conversation initially. That's our first step to show you the value. A lot of people who do credit repair or just want to take your money, fix their credit, and you're gone. But then you still struggle because you don't have the knowledge or the understanding of what is required to get approved for financing. Credit Plug talks a lot about business credit, right? In order to build a business credit, you're going to need exceptional credit for your credit history. And all those factors that I mentioned with the payment history and your credit card usage, derogatory marks, all those things have to be cleared up, which is what we're going to focus on. One thing I want to also mention is that although we get an exceptional amount of interest in our services, you get your money back, right? So we offer a 90 business day turnaround. It's a win-win situation with the customer. If we can't get the job done, we're going to give you your money back, right? So we believe in the integrity of our service. We sell integrity, not credit repair.
I wanted to just emphasize, one very important key thing that you mentioned. And this is something, that I witnessed just along my credit journey, right? The point you made about you might have a 740 credit score with a late payment on one of your accounts. And it could be an account from, where that late payment may have been, 4 or 5 years ago, right? And just because you have a high credit score, any presence of any late payments, you get what's called a derogatory indicator on your credit profile. As you were saying, a lot of the major banks, they have somewhat of a zero tolerance for any derogatory information whatsoever.
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your score is. So you still have the presence of derogatory information. So it's paramount that you get that addressed. And Crown Credit Pro is one of the best in the
Yes.
business. And definitely check out the link in the description. Set up a consultation. Right, everyone's journey is different. Everyone's situation is different. Sit down, have a conversation. They'll walk through your credit report with you, tell you what you need to get done, and they do a great job at doing it. So again, pleasure having you on, Jason.
Yeah.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you sharing
Yes.
gems with us. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I know you guys are changing a lot of lives.
Yeah.
So just keep it up. And again, thanks for
Yeah.
coming
Thank
on
you.
our channel.